No matter whether you were the initiating partner or a reluctant participant or someone who was kind of neutral, no matter where you are on a spectrum from excited to reluctant or frustrated, I still expect you to go through times where it feels like you're doing constant emotional training and retraining. And it can feel like there's no rest days. It can feel like you're just constantly doing, because we're unpacking a whole bunch of assumptions. We are coming to terms with what we thought our life was going to look like.
Yep.
We're questioning everything. Also, regular life still has to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that was what strikes me when I think to that moment. We were sitting in the car, sitting in the driveway, and you just had like your head in your hands. We had completely like redesigned our family life, our romantic lives, our business life. You were exhausted because also you still had to go to your job, and we still had to put dinner on the table for the kids, and we still had to pay bills, and we still had to exercise and do.
Kids
None
had
of that
appointments
stopped.
and all of the
Yeah.
things were
None of that
trucking along.
stops. So,
So there we are. We find ourselves in this spot.
right. What if it's okay though? Welcome to Playing with Fire, the podcast for people who are ready to custom build their love.
We're talking about non-monogamy, however you design it, as an individuation opportunity.
Want to leave the default and make your life spectacularly you? You're in the right place. Hey, Ken, we're back for another deep discussion. And this one comes from a question. I would not call it a Q&A quickie, though, because I don't think that this question can be answered quickly. So just a Q&A, just an answer to a listener
I love
question.
questions. I love questions from our people.
Yeah. So, and this question, I want to be really clear. It does not come from just one place. This question was drawn from at least a dozen conversations that I've had over the last 12 months. And specifically, I mean, it's a question that comes from a place of deep pain. And I imagine that some of our listeners might think that I have read their mind, or that I am specifically talking about them. I promise you this is an amalgamation, because I'm seeing this all over the place, because our lives, our paths in exploring conscious relating are remarkably similar. If you could all see from my vantage point, the variety, but also the similarities across our experiences, it's actually a very soothing experience for me.
Yeah, if you hear yourself in this and you're like, hey, they're talking about me, that means you're not alone. It means that someone else has also thought of this, felt this, had this question.
Yeah. So the way that this has been put to me is, I've been walking this path with my partner for a while now. And most days it feels like my part in the process is all about hard work. It's about regulating myself. It's about reflecting on myself. It's about managing my feelings. It's about making agreements and having relationship meetings. And I'm really proud of what I've learned, but I'm also really wondering whether I even want to spend all of this energy. I'm feeling frustrated.
And that's a real moment. That's, again, you're not alone. There's a point at which it can happen that you're like, well, I've been putting the effort in. I've been doing the things, and it's awesome, and constant growth, and constant growth, and it's just constant growth. This is just like, oof. Is this sustainable? Can I keep going at this? And when does it get easier?
I feel like I just got hit with a time warp, because I remember you, Ken, sitting in our car back in 2011, early 2011, and saying almost exactly that. And you had already been non-monogamous the whole time, but you had hit a period of relating that I think we in fact, we did describe it back then as, oh yeah, it's constant growth. And that doesn't feel great.
Yeah,
Even though when you zoomed up, if you could take a 50,000 foot view, you were really happy about it. But when you're in it, moment by moment, Monday by Monday,
moment, not the 50,000 foot view necessarily. So yeah. And I was non-monogamous the whole time. And then at the point that I said, oh, I want to do this well, all of a sudden I needed to grow. I needed to learn. I needed to change.
Yeah, and also you shifted from doing it in a way where you had centered on still having a mono presentation for most of the
Oh yeah.
world. And so
Hmm.
there was a new layer of, oh, if I'm doing this in a public facing
Yep.
reality, now there were new layers, even though you were
Yeah.
decades in. That meant there were just obvious new things that had to be learned. So normal. People ask me all the time, like, is this normal? Is that normal? This, if we're talking about normal as in typical, yeah, it's incredibly typical. Also, you came into this from different perspectives with different motivating factors. So if you were the initiating partner in an established relationship, then you have one set of motivating factors. If you were the person who was presented the idea of opening, now there's a couple different options. Were you presented the idea and you were very reluctant? Were you presented the idea and you were like, hell yeah, that sounds like fun? And maybe you jumped into your own sort of feeling like, okay, I wasn't the initiator, but I'm really excited. Or were you just kind of neutral, like, I'll learn? Depending on how you started this, it can feel like you are not actually experiencing what you thought you were going to experience
Ah,
really quickly, right? Like
foiled expectations.
yeah, and we're bad
Yeah.
forecasters of what's going to
Yep.
happen, especially when we're
Yep.
exploring something brand new. Um,
That's so far outside of the standard scripts.
yeah,
Very hard to anticipate.
and no matter whether you were the initiating partner or a reluctant participant or someone who was kind of neutral, no matter where you are on a spectrum from excited to reluctant or frustrated, I still expect you to go through times where it feels like you're doing constant emotional training and retraining.
Yeah.
And it can feel like there's no rest days. It can feel like you're just constantly doing because we're unpacking a whole bunch of assumptions. We are coming to terms with what we thought our life was going to look like.
Yep.
We're questioning everything. Also, regular life still has to happen.
Hmm.
Regularly, and that was what strikes me when I think to that moment we were sitting in the car, sitting in the driveway, and you just had like your head in your hands. We had completely like redesigned our family life, our romantic lives, our business life. You were exhausted because also you still had to go to your job, and we
Yeah.
still had to put dinner on the table for the kids, and we still had to pay bills, and we still had to exercise and do
Kids
none
had
of that stopped.
appointments and all of the
Yeah.
things were
None of that
trucking along.
stops. So,
So there we are. We find ourselves in this spot.
right.
Um,
What if it's okay though? What if it's also just
okay.
okay that you're
Yeah.
going through a period of time when it is kind of exhausting? I also think this is not dissimilar to being pregnant when you're like, okay, I really wanted this and wow, this is exhausting. And I still have to do oh my God. Yeah. So how we're framing this, like, is it okay that it's hard work matters. I think that really, really matters. Is it okay for me to frame this as, yeah, I am participating in something that is hard work? And if I am a more monogamously oriented person, then I'm also not getting any like immediate feedback, like the
Right.
way dating gives, and like an immediate internal feedback loop of like, oh, yummy treat. So I think that adds to it. So maybe you've gotten to the spot where you're okay that it's hard, but then you're also really looking for where is the reward? Where is the payoff for me?
Yeah.
I think we have to talk about how will we find our center again?
Yeah. So one of the things I like about your approach to, well, everything, but in particular, the field of work that you've chosen, which is relationships, is you have tools for everything. You look for tools, and where there isn't one, you try to come up with one.
Yeah, and
So,
most of the time that's just about naming something that
mm,
that people are doing all the time. We need to give it a name so that we know how to go do this thing, use this thing
so we can
at the right
refer to
time.
it and
At
say,
the right
do
time and
this.
it like use it in the right
Mhm.
place.
And so when I was uncomfortable, when I was down and feeling overwhelmed, What did you recommend I do?
Well, so I didn't know what to recommend you way back then,
Yeah, we were still.
but we did have one thing that we were drawing from, both of us, which was a vision statement for what we wanted out of shifting our family life, shifting our relational life. And so I would remind you, like, we opted into this.
Yeah,
We decided to do this thing. We knew it would be complicated. We didn't maybe know how hard it would be, but we did know it would be complicated. And you did a great job of anchoring into what now I've heard so many people use this term. I don't know where it first popped up, but your poly Y. It might have
yeah.
been Leah Marshall, actually, who I first heard use this term. Your poly Y. What is your poly Y? As your compass, as your like, wait, I have a reason for doing this. And your reason is not dating. Like your actual reason,
Right.
Ken,
No, it's not.
it's
My
like I've heard
reason.
you a million times.
Yeah,
So what is your reason?
my reason is that just it just comes right up out of me. I don't see why I should or anyone should restrict or constrain what I feel for other people. I think that we're here to be in relationship with, well, everything, but in specific, other people. And I didn't see why I should just pick one relationship and cut off everything else. So my why was and is um, because I think we all should get to.
So you have an inherent um you said like an inherent, it's a feeling of it comes up out of you, but I
Yep.
also hear you naming a value. You have a
Yeah.
value of not controlling other people's feelings
Yes.
toward other
Yep.
people. You don't believe that you should get to say who your beloveds find to be their beloveds.
I believe in emotional autonomy.
There
Yeah.
you go. Okay, so we just drilled down
Yep.
through a little narrative to find, and so that statement, I believe in emotional autonomy. I mean, if you were to come up against a big blip in our relational life where
Mhm.
there's just a lot of heavy lifting for you and a lot of work because I am having a lot more fun than you are. I found my groove with some new partners. I'm
And
doing a
that's
lot of
often
things.
when this feels most keen, right?
Right.
Is when I feel like this is a lot of work and I see you just enjoying the hell out of it all. And
Yeah.
that differentiation, that
The difference.
asymmetry,
Just yeah,
that
the
difference
asymmetry. Yep.
feels it magnifies the feeling of, well, this is a lot of work.
Right. And in that moment, if you yourself, not me as your partner, but if you yourself
Yeah.
are like truly connected to your own value of emotional autonomy,
Hmm.
well, from there, the experience doesn't necessarily like the actual tactical experiences you're having; those won't change,
Right.
but the meaning you make out of them
Yep.
will change.
Yeah.
And when we change our meaning making function, well, that's a psychological move. Now I have shifted from suffering into experiencing. And when you add meaning to something that you had previously considered to be suffering, often everything sort of like the haze clears.
Yeah.
It can clear a lot of the gunk away. Um, I'm not saying it's easy, but when I see you do that, I'm always aware that you're doing it for yourself as well as everyone you relate to. You're
That.
anchoring back into something that comes from you rather than
Yep.
asking me to fix something
Right.
that you feel.
Yeah. That's really, in terms of meaning making and experiencing discomfort, knowing that I'm doing this on purpose because of me
Yeah.
really changes. Well, you know what? It eliminates any possibility of resentment. This is for me. I can resent myself, I suppose. And I
Well,
guess that's not out of the question.
no,
I
that
have.
brings us to an interesting question because
Does, right?
now the next question I have is, am I still a willing participant
Oh yeah.
right now? right? So consent is not something that we just check off and say, oh, I have consented forevermore. Consent is an ongoing experience. So if you're starting to feel resentment, yeah, it's one thing to point your resentment out toward a partner and say, you're making me do this. That comes with its own set of troubles. It is also a problem to point to myself and say, you're making me do this. And who am I talking to? What a whole bigger question about multiplicity, inner multiplicity. But I also want to think about, well, what does it mean for me to have consented here? Am I a willing participant? Have I consented? Do I understand what is required of me? And then if my answer is yeah, I am in consent. A lot of times the struggle comes with, yeah, my head is in consent. My intellect is in consent. My
Mhm.
values are aligned, but my body does not like this. And now we have to turn to a different kind of work, because you can keep listening to podcasts and you can keep intellectualizing about it and getting into conversations. And that can actually be really supportive. It can be helpful to hear other people like, great, other people struggle with this. I'm not alone. And your body probably needs support,
Yeah.
actual support, because if you are experiencing strain, well, okay, I have questions. I have questions about, do you have any nervous system support in your life? And that can come
Mhm.
in a lot of different forms. How's your sleep? How's your exercise? How's your nutrition? How is your connection to others beyond this one established relationship partner? Because if you don't have community and the resources of a broader community, of course this feels even more intense. And since consent is this ongoing, like, it is ongoing and needs to be freely given. And if you always put it on your partner, if you get into the habit of when it's difficult, it becomes something your partner's making you do. Now you're
Mhm.
in a tug of war
Yeah.
with your partner, right? And possibly even having divested from a sense of personal agency. Have you lost track of the fact that you are the one opting in? And this is where it gets tricky. And I'll have people say, like, well, I don't want to do this, but in order my partner is doing this, so in order to be with
Yeah.
them, then I have to.
Yeah.
And it is true that we often do things in order to have access to specific people in specific ways. That's true. Um, and it might be that this relationship isn't a fit. So this could be a time when we lean into discernment. Um, Do you want to keep living this way? If nothing were to change, do you want to keep living this way? And I think that this question winds up really throwing people, like putting people back on their heels, because it's a reminder that my relationship is a choice.
Yeah.
I'm getting up every day and I'm opting in, and I don't get to opt in just to the good moments. I have to opt into a relationship where, yep, partners are going to make mistakes, and sometimes things are going to feel hard and asymmetric.
And
And and and also, I don't want you to be just opting into suffering for suffering's
for
sake.
sure, right. And you mentioned it, and I've heard a lot of people not complain. Well, a little bit of complain, but like I'm only doing this because my partner wants me to. That there are so many different versions of that, but that's like the simplest one. I'm doing this because my partner wants it.
Yeah.
And that can feel, I hear people, it can feel like, okay, I'm doing this for them. And then it feels like the decision is actually made by them.
Right. So now
And
I've
they
I've
are
got
the,
more and more distance
like,
between myself and my choice.
but yes, the choice lies with them, not me. And when I hear that, what I, um, what I say is it's true that in other circumstances you might not make this choice. But because you're in relation with this particular person or people, you have decided to make different choices.
Yeah.
It's not that it's if you dig down deep enough, it's not actually that you don't want to. It's that you have a collection of wants and you've picked the ones that you're going to focus on right now. And I will pick the ones that are going to get you what you're looking for right now. that also, as it turns out, align with my values as a person in relation with you. And so I make this decision. Would I just voluntarily make it out of the blue? No.
Yeah.
But when I take all of my wants into consideration, then I am the willing participant who is saying, oh, yep, I've looked at the world. I've thought about all the things I want and don't want. There's a collection of stuff I don't want that I'm going to experience so that I have this other thing that I want.
Yeah. I I think this is so hard to hold on to
And it
when
is.
we have fallen when we have fallen into the I think of it as like tripping. I'm going along the road and I'm experiencing my relationship and I stumble and I stumble and I fall and now I'm down and I'm low.
Yeah.
When I'm in that low spot and
Hmm.
my body is constricted, my gut feels like nothing is right, my stomach's not settled, my sleep starts faltering, my thoughts are racing all day
Hmm.
long. I hear like, what are we talking about? The sensations often of jealousy. If I am feeling my relationship is just sort of a state of threat for me, I don't feel like, because especially if I'm coming at this from a monogamous perspective, if exclusivity is the primary way I have felt my relationship was safe and was mine, right? Then as I'm in that low spot and my body's sending me all of these messages, if I don't have a really clear, connected, grounded narrative to what is in this for me, and what is in this for me might not be the things that are in it for your partner,
Hmm.
especially if you are monoamorous. So let's say you don't want to date other people. You don't want to have sex with other people. You don't want whatever. You don't want those things. Or possibly also, maybe they're not available. Like it's just not working. It's not happening for you. There are lots of reasons why someone might not be getting those same quicker reward loops. But in that moment, I need to have access to my reasons why. And there are a bunch of others that you've named over the years that I think have been really powerful drivers during times, especially times when we were in very asymmetric benefit phases. We were we were
Yeah.
having very asymmetric.
Yep.
So one of them was that you were trying to unpack your patriarchal like the
Nonsense.
okay, yeah, like all like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
messages.
All that.
Or another way you've put it is, yeah, I have okay, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Would you talk about entitlement?
Yeah. So I have found entitlement riddled through my my assumptions, my like precognitive commitments to how the world works, and I have to be open to noticing them in order to move past them into that emotional autonomy, interconnectedness that I value. And what can happen is you mentioned getting like you're getting down, you're getting tired. It gets harder. Like those, it gets harder to maintain the bandwidth to notice all of the things about yourself that you're keeping track of to let yourself be your best self.
I remember hearing you talk about entitlement and thinking like, how can everything tie back to entitlement? And you have been really untangling yourself from entitlement. And the other day, I had a great experience
Oh
of
yeah.
really truly feeling entitlement that I'd
Yep.
like to share. Because sometimes I think we tend to maybe overcomplicate how entitlement shows up
Hmm.
and what it might be doing. But you've talked about entitlement that comes along with your male privilege, your height privilege, your white privilege, all like you have so many privileges. I had birthday privilege the other day. And so I woke up and it was my birthday and I absolutely without thinking, I got up and we exercised and the whole time I was exercising, I felt this like weird ugh. Even though I was doing something I like doing, I just felt kind of like a little frustrated and my nose kept making kind of a scrunchy face. I was just kind of like, I don't know. I was like, mm, mm, mm. And then we went to get in the cold plunge. Another thing that I like, but I swear to God, it was colder. I swear to it was ridiculous. I felt entitled to the water being warmer, to the experience of running being gentler, to the weights being lighter, because it was my birthday.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was such a precognitive commitment. I wasn't thinking it's my birthday, this should be easier, because I could have just taken the day off from exercise. I didn't have to
Right.
go do it. I chose to. And then simultaneously, I didn't think it should be this hard because I'm special. And I was so grateful. So I'm in the cold plunge, and this realization happened about 3 minutes in,
Yeah.
and I think I talked about it for the next 10 minutes while I was in there. And I don't think I've ever felt so crisply how entitlement, it can be running under the surface of our experience and not look like anything.
Yeah.
The only reason I noticed it is because we'd been talking about entitlement the day before, and then it just felt so crisp, and you were standing right there. And I thought, that's it. That's what you're talking about. It is this assumption that I had made that if I didn't make it obvious, because once I'd noticed it, it was so easy to set down. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, the
It
water is neutral. I need this water to be cold. Otherwise, it's not a cold plunge. It is just a plunge. It's a bath. Like, if running's not some exertion, then what's the point of doing it? And I needed this to be hard because that's what I'm doing. I'm building something. I
yeah.
am training myself. And so sometimes when people have a really easy of non-monogamy, and actually I think you fall into this category, you have a really easeful relationship with
Right.
non-monogamy,
Yeah.
which means when it gets hard, you
Mhm.
are blindsided. You
Yeah.
have no resilience at all.
And so the entitlement, which is I mean, it is expectation. It is the expectation that everything will be what I want it to be. Right? That's
Yeah.
entitlement. It is an expectation. And when our expectations aren't met, anything that anything bad that we're experiencing gets magnified
Right.
because it's like the
Anything that we deem bad in that
yep.
moment,
And the
even if we recently had thought it was fine.
yep.
Yep. In
But
that moment. So it's
now
a moment to moment somatic experience,
yeah.
an embodied experience of like my body saying, no, pouting. Like, it's a
Yeah.
very crossed arms pouting sort of
Very,
feeling,
yep, very
right? Mm.
petulant. Mm.
But it's also a bunch of thoughts that make no sense if I say them out loud.
Yep.
So I love when we're talking about moments like this, moments where things are asymmetric and I don't like it. I really appreciate that we have a running line in this house. Say it. Say the
Mhm.
thing. Say, I don't think this is fair. Let your inner toddler voice that, but give it a container. Right. So when we were raising a lot of toddlers all at once, oh my God, I can't believe we survived that. When we had a mini petting zoo of toddlers, we would give them containers to have their meltdowns in. I mean, literally, like you'd take the one that's melting down and you go sit in a quiet room with them and let them sort of bounce off the walls and figure out what they're doing, and you hug them and give them a snack, and give your inner toddler a container. Ask your partner, maybe they have the bandwidth to hold some space for you, but just holding it inside is a lot. And also asking your partner as to be the only one who witnesses your possibly petulant, possibly realistic sense of unfairness. I don't know where it's going to fall on the scale from from reasonable to petulant, let's say. But if your partner's the only one who ever hears this, that is an exhausting dyadic experience. We need community for this.
Yeah.
We need community. And most of the people who struggle deeply with these feelings, and they're really dug down, and they come to me and they're basically at their wits end when they get to me, most of the time they have forgotten to turn to their community, or they don't yet have a community of
Right.
people where it's
Right.
okay to show up and say, this is really hard right now, and I don't feel like I'm getting anything out of it. And could I have some space to just give voice to what's here? Could I just be witnessed in this? Because the inner toddler, like, really does want to lay down and on the floor and, pound their fists and their feet into the ground. It's to do that without community is to really, really up the intensity of the experience. The isolation that comes from that is It's so much harder. So
It is. It's so much harder. There's no external perspective, and it's not about an external perspective. It's about, oh, this isn't the only way to look at this.
right. And opening up and noticing, and then also noticing like, oh, that's also not the only thing I'm feeling in there.
Hmm.
If we let the interiority have its voice, all of a sudden we realize the interiority is incredibly multiplicative. There it is. It is multifarious. Inside, along with that toddler, is often a whole bunch of calmer,
Hmm.
wiser aspects of us who do recognize that we want to be in this um, struggle, for lack of a better word. And so, I guess my biggest question for a person who's in this spot right now is: have you offered yourself enough supports to make it possible for you to experience the highs and lows of your particular journey? Um, if you are feeling burdened, have you do you have a time during any given week or day where you get to actually talk about the splitting of the emotional labor, the logistical labor of having multiple relationships? Have you talked about how are we going to make sure that everybody in this relational dynamic feels seen and heard, even if the things that we're seeing and hearing are very different? Also, have I built fun into my life? Or have I dug down into just working and then white knuckling through everything?
Yeah.
I guess another way to put that is, are you wearing the martyr archetype
Right.
as a primary mode of moving around the world? Because that happens too. My partner is bringing me this non-monogamy thing. I feel like I have to do it. And then one of the places I can go to is the martyr,
Right.
or the hero, right? Which, I mean, the martyr and the hero are
They're
just
very,
the
very
same.
related.
They're the same costume. One has more of a crown, more glitzy, but
Yeah.
but they're the same costume. Um,
And you mentioned the value of community in sharing the highs and the lows, and that can't overstate that. But not all of us have access to a community where that's available. And I will say that for those of us that that's true, I have found in those times when I haven't had the community that just writing can be enough, or whatever it is that works for you, but some way of expressing it yourself. Even if there's no one else to see it, you see it.
yeah,
It's
self-witnessing matters.
self-witnessing matters, and expression matters. So it could be art of whatever kind. I mean, writing is an art. It's just one of them.
Yeah,
Um, but one of
I've heard you improvise the piano when you're
yeah,
feeling away,
for sure. Yeah.
and
And it can feel both like a way of being witnessed for sure, and it can also relate to what you mentioned before about sometimes when you say something out loud, you hear it differently than it sounds in your head. And
yeah,
all of a sudden, something that seemed like just like there is no way out of this, I am locked in this, and you say it out loud, and all of a sudden it doesn't look the same way. Oh, now I see multiple ways of negotiating this.
right.
So I can't express
And
too strongly how expression can really open this experience up for you.
And at that moment, you also have the option to get into an internal dialectic.
Mm,
You could invite the toddler part of you and a wise elder part of you into a conversation in your journal. What would they say to each other? What do
right.
they, because at that point you're starting to make different your own, your inner community visible to you. It's a really valuable tool.
Yeah.
There's something else that I think you taught me very, very early, just in the first days and weeks that I was even learning what non-monogamy, polyamory could even be, which was moving beyond the ownership model and all the juice that gave me, because I moved immediately into a full-time triad, and there was a lot of couples privilege at work, and it wasn't me. I wasn't in the
Yep.
couplehood.
That was
But one of the things that you helped me instill in myself was really valuing that I was unpacking the ownership model of couplehood and love. And so I was using the tool of pride. I was proud of myself
Mhm.
for like nurturing the thoughts of compersion, even if I wasn't feeling like embodied
Yeah.
compersion yet, and for showing up and being who I wanted to be in a non like a really a relational dynamic that really centered sovereignty and identity outside of partnership, like really centered that. And taking some pride in that meant in those really low moments when I was like, oh, I feel like I'm on the outside, I feel like this is all really
Yeah.
hard for me. I had something else. And I couldn't necessarily even say, well, I know where this is going, but it was different than what most people were doing. So if
Mhm.
you have a bit of an iconoclastic streak in you,
Yeah.
if you like being a bit of a nonconformist, maybe you can grab onto, hey, you're building some solid ground under yourself that most people don't build. The idea that love is infinite, and the idea that you don't need to be in an ownership model dyad to be worthy. That's valuable work all by
That
itself.
is. I'm so
Um,
glad you brought the word pride in. At the beginning when we were talking about my poly why, yeah, a lot of what helps me uh, maintain those. So the values are right there. They're always there. Emotional autonomy and interconnectedness. Those are always right there. But my relational experience isn't always easy because of that.
yeah,
And then when it's hard and and the level of effort I'm having to sustain starts to feel unsustainable, well, I can feel proud of myself for doing something hard.
yeah,
And that helps me. We have egos. They're not we're not supposed to have egos. We're
yeah.
just not supposed to,
Don't let them run the show,
don't let
but
them run the show, but they're still sources of energy for us. And when I feel like, oh, I'm this is really hard and I'm doing it, I can feel good about myself, and that can help me.
you're being who you said you were gonna
Yeah,
be.
that feels
Yeah.
really good. And so I get something out of it, not just I'm giving, giving, giving. No, I'm actually
Mm,
getting stuff for myself too.
yeah.
And I think it's worth mentioning too that um, so we've kind of been talking about like backing out a level, like what's going on in me. Is it my toddler? My is there are parts of me, and then there's other parts of me that aren't maybe so having such a hard time. Time is also a level we can back out.
Mm,
Um, is it a part of our relationship, like that is going to continue on forever, that it is this hard all the time, or is it that this week i I lost my job or I twisted my ankle, because pain will definitely
yeah,
make
what are
things
your other
harder even if it's
stressors?
irrelevant. What are your other stressors, and are those temporary? Which ones of
Yeah,
those are temporary, and how temporary are they? Look at what's going on for you right now that might be making it harder.
yeah, I think, anytime there's a transition too,
Oh, yeah.
so even just a seasonal transition, I often see clients, um, there a lot of stuff will come up, a lot of emotional stuff will come up right around when school starts,
Yep.
right around the holiday season,
Yeah.
both of those just across the board. So generally I've got a community of a couple hundred people around me that, yep, I can see the pattern. Here we go. The
Yeah.
overall stress level is up. Um, it
And those
can
transitions don't have to be to bad things. They
Oh,
can be
absolutely.
transitions to good things, and they can be
Yeah.
just as disruptive.
Yeah, just transition to anything.
Yeah.
One more thing I think we should talk about is sometimes if someone is more monogamously aligned, then th- they're feeling frustrated because like, oh, this is all like learning about myself and self-regulation and finding my why. Should I just date? Should I just start dating?
Oh, mhm.
Um and I think that that's a really interesting question because dating can shift your perspective, but it won't necessarily, because as soon as you start dating, you're going to start confronting a whole new set of complexities like
Oh,
the
yeah.
complexities of, oh, now I'm dating. Okay, how am I going to meet people? What kind of dating? Like now you're going to be grappling with new kinds of self agreements and agreements with partners. You're going to potentially be learning how to manage your time differently. Like there's a lot that goes into that. I think it's a great thought experiment to just to consider dating. But and if you're curious, I encourage you to try it. But the thing that I often hear is like, I want to balance things out. It feels like it's not
Mm.
fair. So I need to get
Mhm.
things more in balance. And I'm always suspicious of the word balance because asymmetry is that's the norm. We're going to like in life, things are going to be asymmetric all over the place because we're dealing with individuals and our individual needs and wants are different. So if I don't have any real impulse to date, but I think, well, but my partner is, so I should date. Yeah, but do you want to? Because what if we made that,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not lactose intolerant. So if I'm having ice cream and you're like, yeah, well, I want a treat. If you choose to have ice cream, you get ice cream and a tummy ache.
Yep.
I just get ice cream. It's still not balanced. It's still not going to feel
Right.
good.
Yeah.
But you can feel like you got the same. So let's not mistake sameness with actually getting a feeling of this feels good. Those are that's just not the same thing. Um, Also, it does call into question like, are you dating from a place of genuine like, yes, I want to do this because now we're talking about other real humans. So
Right.
like
Yeah.
how do you want to show up for them? One of the things we talked about in an earlier episode, I think it's called "So Many Fish in the Sea. How do I find mine?"
Yeah.
Um, is well, do you know what you're out there for? Do you know what you are available for? And you don't have to know everything. It doesn't have to be like super well defined, but you got to have some idea of what you have to offer others. And if the primary thing you have to offer others is you are frustrated with your partner and you feel like it's unfair that they're having more fun than you, you're probably not going to be a really great date for those new people.
Right. Yeah.
So I would really encourage you to get clear on, okay, as to the best of your ability, can you find your own dating why?
Yeah.
Can you figure out why you'd be dating and actually date from that place?
Yeah.
And if the answer is that you only want symmetry, it's probably not going to work out over the big picture.
Yeah. If that's your goal, then that's not. It's not going to put you in a place where you're going to relate well to the people that you're dating.
Yes, that said, all of that said, distraction has its place in time. If you're
Right.
experiencing a lot of tension, a lot of struggle, have you considered distraction? And that doesn't have to be through romantic and sexual relationships. It could be maybe you want to date for fun, casually, just like put yourself out there. Maybe you also want to just casually put yourself out there into more actual real life activities with other people. Maybe you want to like really like nurture your connections, your non-romantic friendship connections. Consider what it is that distraction could be for you because a lot of people do date for distraction. Um, think about that again. Like, what are you showing up with? What are you
Right. What are
bringing?
you bringing?
Yeah.
And I
And
can see how distraction would be a reasonable place to start because it's like, oh, I would like to pay attention to you instead of all these other things. That feels
yeah.
kind of good, or can.
Yeah. And I think we talk about this in Year of Opening a lot. I don't, I do not believe that there is a better or worse relationship style. There
Mhm.
isn't. But if you're exploring beyond the mono paradigm, then you are going to have some mind bending experiences. You're going to come up against challenges to your thoughts and beliefs that you haven't had to have before. And so, unpacking from mono mind is something we can do even if we want to maintain our monogamy. The
Yeah.
mono mind is not required for mono behavior. So, like, we could really make this also about how can I lean in and get support from people who are holding the tension of, yeah, we want to grow in our relational multiplicity, and your monoamory is valuable. And dating doesn't may not be part of your experience because it may not be aligned for you. It's not that if it's not aligned for you, it's not going to fix any of these
Mhm.
so-called problems. It's just not. It's definitely not going to fix the struggles. One last thing that I think can be helpful is to recognize the milestones we hit. And again, it's really helpful to have a place to come and celebrate inside of the year of opening. I love when we'll have somebody come in and do celebrations and wins. It doesn't have to be. I think people imagine that all the wins are going to be, I had this new dating experience, or I finally got to try this kink out. No way. The biggest celebrations I have ever seen have been celebrations of resilience, of a
Right.
huge breakthrough in communication, or my absolute favorite, I am finally in integrity with my agreements.
Mhm.
Somebody saying, I made this agreement, I faced the temptation to violate this agreement, and I held this agreement. Like
It's a huge
let's
win.
huge win. Let's
Yeah.
celebrate. So celebrating the milestones in our process is another way to fuel the fire of like, why, like, how am I going to keep going? If this feels like it's all expenditure out, how can I keep refueling me? And one of them is to name and acknowledge all of the growth that you're
Yeah.
experiencing and have it witnessed. Show up to spaces where we can actually witness each other, because sometimes we're also just too hard on ourselves. And what feels like we've talked ourselves into like, oh, that's no big deal. So what? So I did this thing. No, have it
Have
witnessed.
it witnessed and find people who you believe are aligned with the thing that you're going to share.
Yeah,
Because it is true that bringing something to witness to someone who then judges it can have the exact opposite effect, which is why I mean, we have the year of opening exactly for this.
that's
It's
what we
one,
exist for.
we
Yeah.
exist so that there's a community of people who can share these kinds of things. And also we have our Ask Me Anything calls,
Yes.
which you're welcome to bring all of your celebrations to
Yeah.
that.
Bring celebrations, share with us. I I really appreciate the people who have been willing to share the feeling that
Oh yeah.
inspired this particular conversation, because it is hard to show others how deeply vulnerable we feel
Mhm.
in this process. And remember, this process takes months that turn into years. It is a big deal to shift how you show up in relationship and to shift your paradigm. So if you're struggling, I hope that you can see from here just a little bit clearer of a path in front of you. I hope we've cleared a few feet of path in front of you at least. Thanks, Ken. I appreciate this conversation.
Thanks, Jolie.
We talk to you all the time. It is absolutely imperative to me that we get to hear from you as well.
Yes, please.
So, we'd love to invite you to join us. Join Ken and I. We're holding monthly Ask Me Anythings. You can show up, bring your questions from podcast episodes, from your relationships, bring questions about non monogamy, about individuation, about relationship skills. We would love to share space with you. We're hosting these AMAs free of charge for our podcast listeners. You are the Playing with Fire community, and it matters a ton to us that we connect with you directly. So
Oh, I
go,
would so love to hear your questions and it'd be so awesome.
yeah. Go to joliehamilton.com/AMA and you'll find a way to sign up real quick and get an invitation to join us in a small group where we're going to get together and talk about all things non monogamy, individuation, and relationships.